the one with a ghost of us. Name in my mouth cuts too much. Half a thought and it folds in two, like a bruise leaves a mark on you. Don't hurt in my shaking hand. Know something I don't understand. Like ghosting at the edge of me. Something there that I just can't see. You hear that too? Or is it just me? Downside out, downside out. I need to go where I don't belong. Downside out, downside out. I need to go where it feels so it's the same sad song, empty space that was here all along. Every step is a borrowed shape.
Almost there.
Every second of
What's happening, folks?
escape. Laughter crying out for sin.
Waiting for all of our channels to kick in.
There's a face that I almost know through a window where I won't go.
Yep. We got Facebook, we got Insta, Kick, Rumble, Twitch, Substack, Patreon, YouTube. You're welcome.
Downside out, I need to go where I don't belong. Downside out, downside out, I need to go where it feels so
All right.
I held it still so it wouldn't ruin. Now it moves.
Let me jump straight in here real quick and welcome everybody back. Sorry I was out yesterday, but sorry, sort of not sorry, because as many of you know, Summer just got done with her chemo, and it was a big ordeal. And she had planned for her birthday that we would go to Disneyland so she could just get away from all of it and kind of put that chapter behind her temporarily. Unfortunately, the blood work came back and the white blood cell count was too low to be out in that much public. So we had to wait a couple days, get another blood test, and she got cleared by the doctor and we could go. And so we literally went just for the day yesterday, just to, you know, make it in, because we had bought passes that allow us to jump the line so she wouldn't have to stand around as many people as you would in a place like that. And so they had to be used in a week or we lost them. So it was a lot. So, but we managed to do it. It was a lovely day. And I thank you guys for, you guys are my boss. So I appreciate the day off, boss, to go take care of my girl. And then, of course, we returned last night and in Las Vegas, and our air conditioner that we just fixed was out, and it was 89 degrees in the house. And luckily the cats are jungle animals, so they're fine. But we got it fixed this morning and we slept in the basement because it was cool down there with all my computer gear. Such an evening we had. It was lovely. But let me get straight to our guest today, because he's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. Our dear friend, the Major Ojeda, OjedaForNC.com, who had some great news. Early last week, I don't know, I've lost track of time. It all folds together, but your district race went from lean Republican to in play, and no, people will try to lay this and hang this on Donald Trump and his unpopularity, but you've been doing the work. You've been doing the actual campaigning, and I think that has as much or more to do with that circumstance than it's just a bad time to be a Republican. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Grad. I've always enjoyed when I got the time to come on here. First and foremost, who is that? Your band that did that starting song?
Yeah.
Are you kidding, dude? You got to let me. Dude, that's is that on like iTunes and stuff?
Not yet. It's just on here, and then I'm doing a music video for it.
I was fired up, man. That right there had me fired up. But
Thank
the
you.
thing
I'm very
is
proud of that.
we're putting the work in. We're going everywhere. We're going nonstop. Republicans are coming up to us and saying, "Hey, man, they're talking about you in a positive light." I just, we have folks that are just fired up, and I'm running against a guy who doesn't show up.
Hmm.
This is a guy that mirrors whatever Donald Trump says, and people are tired of this garbage.
Yeah.
People are waking up. People are smarter than this. I mean, it's typical that now that the Republicans know that they're in trouble because they've done nothing for the people while they've been in power. So
Hmm.
now all of a sudden they're bringing out their buzzwords, communist and socialist
Right.
and all that garbage. It's because they're failing miserably because they forgot how to actually support the people. They felt that because they were in power, they could do what they want when they want, and nobody could do anything about it. And now they're about to lose everything because
Hmm.
of their arrogance and the things that they've done. But we are absolutely putting boots on the ground everywhere. It was phenomenal to be moved from an in play onto the in play races, and we are hoping that. We're going to continue doing everything right. And we're hoping that in the very, very near future, even though it might be the last 2 months of the election, that we could get put on the red to blue list, because
Hmm.
that would help us be able to raise all the money that we need to make sure that we do take this, race. And I go to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like it's funny to me that in in the languaging about these things, I'm a bit of a nitpicker about this stuff. You know this about me. It's the most Libra thing about me is that I'm not a big fan of the word fight because I think we need people who can debate and sell and explain and clarify. Because I don't think actually the issues by and large that we believe in need to be fought for to get and they need to be understood because once the voter understands that this is a service job meant to help them, that the government job that you are seeking is to be their representative and to make their life easier and there's this like that's beyond fighting. Like there should be an easy agreement on that. It's just a matter of how you explain it to them, how you reach out to them, and how do those. That's why those Republicans are coming up and saying they're talking about you in a positive light. I think is because you have clarity about these issues.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and like I tell people all the time when I go around when I face these groups of people, I say, "Is there anybody here that is going to vote for me so that I can go to Washington D.C. and I can become filthy rich?" Anybody?
Right,
Because
right.
nobody answers, nobody raises their hands, and that's the thing is, the bill that Elizabeth Warren has on the Senate and Congresswoman Jayapal has on the House, the anti-corruption bill.
Yeah,
And this is crucial because look, we got to stop sending these people in Washington D.C. that just have one thing in mind, and that is to get rich. Marge, the
yeah.
train wreck Green,
Oh
had
my
a
God.
$700,000 net worth, and when she left Congress, she was worth over $22 million. She's
Hmm.
going to live the rest of her life in luxury. And the truth is that what did she do for the people of Georgia? Well, how did she elevate the people? All she did was scream MAGA, MAGA, MAGA until Donald Trump finally daggone, or until she finally realized that Donald Trump didn't really care about her and that he was a pedophile. And once again, everything that she's done has not elevated nobody's life in Georgia. So that's what this is about. We need to end being able to trade stocks. We need to
Hmm.
end being able to become lobbyists, because that's another level. And I'm still going to stand by what I said.
Hmm.
I'm going to push legislation that says lobbyists should be made to wear body cameras,
Yep.
because if you could get on your computer and watch every conversation that they have with the member of Congress when
Oh
lobbyists,
yeah.
their member of Congress would be far less likely to sell you down the river if they know you are watching. And I'm talking about if they see a member of Congress in Walmart and they speak to them in aisle 5, they better have their body camera on, because if they get caught, they're going to lose their ability to lobby. Period.
That's right. I think that's great. I mean, it would almost be great if there was because again, I do think the body cam thing is a beautiful idea and will be a hard push. But what you could do is say that if a lobbyist is meeting with any member of Congress or whatever, they must be within 5 witnesses or and cameras. That there should be like a designated. If you're going to meet with lobbyists, you don't have to. But if you're going to meet with lobbyists, you got to have a room in your offices or whatever that is live streamed whenever that happens, not just recorded, but live streamed. I am sitting across from this person and they're going to make their case to me and I'm going to make my case to them and we're going to see if we agree or disagree on stuff. And it's not so they can edit it later or this. Well, some of the video was messed up and the file didn't go, you know what I mean? Because that happens with body cams occasionally. I think they should have to live stream it, just straight up like the auditors at police scenes that run up on places, like turn on your phone and start live streaming it to your congressional channel, right?
Yeah,
That you
maybe.
each yeah.
Yeah, like a location, someplace in the Capitol, and
Yeah.
that's the only place where a member of Congress can actually meet with the lobbyist, and it's going to be recorded and everything,
Yeah.
and everybody should. I mean, look, this is about anti-corruption,
Yeah.
and right now, when we have one of the most corrupt governments in the world, I mean, this is pure buffoonery,
Yeah.
and the thing that gets me is it's like, why are they not doing anything about this Donald Trump? It's because they control every branch of power. It's because the checks and balances, they control who does the checks and balances. The only thing we can do is we can win the House back. We can win the Senate back. And if we win it with enough seats, then we can start holding these people accountable. And impeachments are going to happen all over the place. We're going to have to hold Pete Hegseth accountable for the murders in the daggone middle in the Caribbean and the murders that have taken place in Iran. Look, you killed 153 children on day one. Then you bombed the child's hospital. You bombed facilities that provide clean drinking water for civilians. This is unacceptable. We need to hold them accountable. We need to hold Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Marco Rubio, and that other jackaloon, that little short ice guy that got fired. They need to be held accountable for the people that they've snatched off the streets and sent to gulags all over the world. This is the kind of stuff that when we take back power, we can't drag our feet. We got to make things happen. We got to actually bring the Epstein files out, because I'm going to tell you this. If we ever want to ever save MAGA, and I mean get them educated enough to stop worshiping this garbage, then they need to be made to see everything. You blur the faces of the children, and that's it. Everybody else, they see everybody else, every member of every corporation. You think I give two shits if a corporation crashes because we held the owner of the corporation responsible for raping and beating and trafficking and murdering children? No. We need to hold these people accountable, and we got to do it quickly. We can't drag our feet.
Agreed. On two things, because there was a whole lot in there. The first one being is that I think there's a lot of talk in Washington about special interests, and they use it blanketly, like oil companies and teachers unions are both special interests equally. Fuck that. And so I don't think that the teachers union, most unions, certainly the like hospitality workers, those kind of things, none of those folks would have a problem with their lobbying with their congressperson being filmed in the first place, if you're willing to do it out in the open, because again, we have a representative government. So if you're worried that by saying what you want and need in public, the public won't like it, fuck you. That's the point of our government. It is receptive to the people. And if you can explain what you're doing in a way that doesn't make you look like a villain, maybe you are. Secondly, to your other point, the guys, like if there's a corporation that has a CEO like Wexler or any of these other assholes that was engaged in this stuff, there's two things there. One is the guy should go to jail, period, end of story, fairness in law. But the other thing is, can you imagine if you had a career that was in competition with this guy? And it was only because he was a protected part of this Epstein bubble that you could not break into that industry, because this guy had a toehold on money he did not earn, that he was able to leverage blackmail and back and forth, or other people had leverage on him that they guaranteed him an automatic win in, finding retail space, all that shit across the country, all those deals that are made, that if you're in that bubble, you get the benefits as well as the blackmail. Otherwise, there's nothing to blackmail you with. They have to offer you power, money. Something has to be a reward. Otherwise, you just kill the guy and move on. So But can you imagine if you wanted to start a fashion company or whatever, and literally all the retail space was eaten up by one of these pedophile Epstein dudes, and because of his lock on the halls of power and their fear of him getting kicked out, you don't get a shot. Like in a regular market system, you would never be able to break through that because the glass ceiling is made of Epstein stained glass. It is genuinely there as a barrier to entry to anybody who would want to be in any of these industries. These assholes get a head start. They pull up the ladder after themselves, and then they cobble together with this like blackmail and immorality scheme that they all like. We're all in this awfulness club, and you can't break past it. That's that in and of itself. I almost think that would be one of the things that would appeal to the right leaning independents, maggots that are coming to their senses, whatever. Like, dude, you do understand that those guys have to protect their bubble, and that includes a lot of business and a lot of opportunity that you're never going to see.
Yeah, and this is why it bothers me so much because, like, going back to talking about lobbyists, look, there's good lobbyists. There's people out there that fight for teachers and fight for better for the elderly. I mean, there's a whole entire industry that focuses on the elderly care.
Veterans NGOs, right?
That's right.
Same thing.
And those are good people, and they don't have a problem. The only people that have a problem being on camera are people that know that when they're in those rooms with those members of Congress, they're doing underhanded tactics. That's what they do. They're promising things. I'm going to tell you, I was in my office as a brand new freshman senator in West Virginia, right before I had the conversation with the guy by the name of Rusty Williams, who is one of the reasons why I fought that battle and made West Virginia the 29th state to become legal for medical cannabis. But I was actually in my office with 3 people from this energy group. And they were trying to get me to vote yes on a bill that would allow them to basically say, if they want to go put a gas well in your front yard, they can. And if you tell them no, they can go to the courts and get you thrown off of your land. They also wanted to shoot down on your land and then underground shoot in different directions where they could take resources out from under your neighbors without even having to ask them for anything. So I was like, hell no, I won't do this. And all of a sudden, one of the 3 was a really young, very, very attractive woman. And all of a sudden, and I'm not saying that this is what she was doing, but the only thing that she said is, well, Senator, is there anything that I may be able to do to change your mind on this? And I said, y'all can get up and you can get your asses out of my office. And I threw them out of my office and said, you can talk to Rusty Williams because he stood right there and listened to everything. Because he actually tells a story and says, I was scared to death to stick my head in there and ask him if he wanted to have a conversation about medical cannabis because I just watched him run a damn group of lobbyists out of his office. That's a fact.
Right. Well, and again, like I said, in a representative government, as much as is possible, and we're not fantasists, utopists. We're clearly realists in certain circumstances. If you have a defense contractor or something like that, what you do is a layered review process where they can't lobby. They've got point people on the committees, but they're not allowed to lobby anybody else about what they're doing. And that has to be run through the IGs and everybody at the Pentagon to kick the tires and check the stats on it. But like the idea that you can take them to a football game, fuck that. No, you could go, you know what you can do? You can fly down on a commercial flight and you can tour the facility. You can look at the factory. It's supposed to be top secret inside, all that kind of stuff. Knock yourself out. But if they offer to take you to dinner, you pick the restaurant and you pay for it. That's it. Yeah. If you want to eat with these people, you pay for it. It has to come out of your office. And you'd see those fucking, I don't know, steakhouse dinners dry up real fucking quick.
But see, this is why the Republicans are the way that they are. They're not pushing anything to elevate people's lives because they don't care. They're going to use socialism and communism as their buzzwords now until election to scare people into voting for Democrats. But the truth is that while they have been in power, they've done nothing for us. They've only protected the billionaires who donate to them. I tell people all the time, it's those daggone billionaires and corporate PACs are the reason why Republicans stay in office.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans aren't winning because of small dollar donations. Republicans support the Citizens United, which allows billionaires and corporations to say our money equals free speech. We deserve the right to also be able to talk to legislators. But the big deal is they're the ones that are now creating super PACs. You can only give me $3,500 for my congressional race as a donation, up to $35,000, but they can stick $50 million in a super PAC and use it to go after their enemies on these races. And it actually works in some cases. That's how come we have some of these jackaloons like Clay Higgins and these people that have been in office for decades. And the thing is they stay in power. How do they stay in power when all they ever do is bitch and gripe about things and spew hatred? How do they stay in office? It's because of this. This is one of the reasons why. The first thing I have to do when I make it to Congress is I sign on to ending Citizens United. Because we've got to stop and we've got to get big money out of our politics. We've got to stop allowing people like Elon Musk to dump billions of dollars into our races when you and I don't have that capability. Democrats, my campaign is funded by small dollar donations. $16 to $18 is my average donation. My opponent's is over $800. I mean, this is the way that it is. And if you really want people in Washington, D.C. that are going to fight for you, you got to stop sending these daggone Republican cucks to daggone Congress. You send people like me. I'm going to tell you right now, I ain't going to lie to you. I sit in my office and I literally practice what I'm going to say to some of these assholes. I mean, I really want to lay into them, man, because I'm tired of this garbage. I'm sick and tired of listening to these people claim to be super American and super supportive of our veterans, and they're attacking the daggone sailors right now that have been out to sea for 250 days. And if I could take just a few minutes here, you got to understand this. One of the reasons why a lot of people join the Navy is to see the world. Because, and that's the military in general, but the Navy is a little different because if you get on a Navy, if you're in the Navy and you're on a ship for a year deployment, the thing that makes it worth doing is that you're going to port every other week in a different country where you get off, you can enjoy the customs, you get back on the boat, and you're there for about 2 or 3 days, and then you go to the next port. Right now, we've got troops that have not left that boat since 2025. And you don't have no privacy on a boat. You are in a very condensed position. You literally have a small rack where you can sleep. And next to you, right there in your rack, you got a little shelf where you can put your stuff. Other than that, when you lift it up, you got your uniforms in the bottom. I've toured some of these ships before. And I'm going to tell you, I would never want to spend a lot of time on those boats. And these people, that's where they're at. And they're running out of food. They're running out of hygiene items. And this government, instead of doing the right thing and getting them replaced immediately, are going on the daggone media and trying to vilify the Navy sailors, trying to make them look like they're weak. They're not weak. They're not weak. You know, every one of us that were in the Army and the Navy there during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, during OIF and OEF, you know, we may have been on combat outposts, but we went outside the wire and did things. Being able to see something different will absolutely keep you grounded and not make you want to go stir crazy. And it's a shame that this administration is doing this to our to our sailors.
Absolutely. It's giving them a prison sentence effectively. There's more, you get more yard time in a Supermax prison than you get working on a ship.
Absolutely. And oh, by the way, you know, Pete Hegseth was recently busted for his ordering in the Pentagon of something like $6.9 million of lobster tails and another $15 million in ribeye steaks because everybody in the Pentagon needs to eat like friggin' kings. But you're going to sit here and you're going to roll your shoulders at soldiers that are eating gray friggin' meat.
Yeah, well, you know, again, this has always been about, for the Trump class especially, and anybody who would cling to a person like that is of the same mindset. And as a matter of fact, Trump has expunged anybody who was even remotely, you know, off the straight and narrow of what they expect from everybody, which is total loyalty. And this idea that what it really means is you get a KMA card. If you're in the club, you get a kiss my ass card, and you can use it if you're pulled over by the cops, and you can use it to, to avoid all responsibility. Like Trump even wants his family to never, not just now, not just the past, never be investigated if they defraud the tax, like the IRS. Like, that's just, first of all, that's fucking madness. Not happening, never gonna happen. Like, even if he tries, guess what? Eric's going to jail, period. If they think they can commit crimes like that with impunity, he's not gonna be there forever. I don't care what he says. I don't even think he's gonna make it to the end of the term. And I think he's on a hard downward spiral. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they believe this. And Hegseth, interestingly enough, is this like weird kind of beat poet wuss who's like, not undone missions, but nuclear fission, whatever that shit that he does, where he's like doing these comparative rhyme scheme things as his way of talking about stuff. The rest of the time, he's got a makeup squad. He's got wardrobe people, like he's at Fox News, effectively. And that's, I mean, they're going to replace, I think, Caroline Levitt with Scott Jennings. This is all a fucking show to trick maggots into thinking that this America First MAGA thing is as real, as fair and balanced on Fox News. And the Trump administration and all the people around them know that this is a trademark. It can be a lie because it was meant to be a lie. It's just for display. It's not meant to mean anything. We can, and the idea is that, Trump seems to be trying to turn the United States into a gated community, and even more increasingly, the White House into this bizarre Mar-a-Lago 2. Now, I have my own theories about why they started building the ballroom the way they did, and his own beliefs about his own medical needs. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on the plane swap thing, where he,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So first and foremost, how cowardly is this guy?
Mhm.
I mean, the guy literally does this plan where he walks up the stairs of Air Force One and then goes down the hallway, and they pull this little catering truck up there where they're supposed to unload and get rid of the trash from the last trip and unload and upload new, meals and stuff like that. And then, of course, he goes and he hides in this thing. And he takes his little side, that little woman with the horse teeth. I'm sorry, I should have never said that. That was wrong for me. But that woman, his human printer, and they sneak,
Natalie Hart.
and they sneak to another aircraft and they fly away. So the thing about that is that they left all of the media. They left Marco Rubio and the rest of these folks on the plane that was potentially going to be attacked, according to their thoughts and the things that they have heard, that
his
Iran was going to strike.
Right.
Iran was going to strike. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to sneak Donald Trump away, and we're going to let everybody else ride on this. Now, they didn't tell everybody, hey, everybody, just so you know this plane is expected an attack. We expect an attack. No, they didn't tell them that. They let them fly home on that. When they got home, they found out that Donald Trump wasn't there and that he flew in a different plane. But they were like, but he got on the plane. He got on before we did. And that was what happened. And it's just a level of cowardice.
I agree. So here's the thing why I think it was a ruse to hide something else. Because jumping from new Air Force One to old Air Force One would have been plenty of cover. The countermeasures and stuff that were on Air Force One are the things they were worried about Air Force Two not having, or the Air Force 1.0 beta, Qatari Airlines, and never mind the bugs that are clearly in the electronics of that thing. Like, don't even get me started. Like he says anything worth hearing. I'm so not worried about them spying on anything he says, because he flip flops so much and he tacos all the time, and none of what he says makes sense. I almost wish they busied themselves listening to this shit and listening to like fart up the Oval Office all day while saying sleazy stuff to the staff. Like, you're not going to learn anything. It doesn't matter. But my belief is, and the chat knows this, and I'm going to, no one's going to be able to knock me off this horse, is that I think the C-32A was outfitted with medical personnel. And I think his fear over like Lindsey Graham's travel killing him and that kind of stuff, and his increasingly bad shape, They moved you can load a big block of tech of whatever size, like a small container, like a travel container in there. In that, you could put a hyperbaric chamber, you could put dialysis machines, you could do all kinds of shit. And you could also get 11 doctors or 18 doctors or 22 doctors, depending on who's traveling with them, in that plane without the press noticing. They can travel in that plane, and they're on neither Air Force One. If you saw a parade of the doctors that follows him around, being filmed going up and into the stairs, just like the rest of the press does, that would be the news all the time. So these are my three pieces of evidence. We have stopped seeing him enter a room and leave it. Every single thing in the White House, he is already seated when the press shows up, and they make them leave before he gets up. I've seen him sit down twice in like videos from him at Mar-a-Lago, and it is work. It's a tough one. Plus, he might be, God knows, get on some sort of a drip while he's sitting there. The phalanx of people are already standing there. They arrange this thing as a display, but no one sees him coming or going. He went to Camp David twice this year. He fucking hates that place. It doesn't even have a golf course. There's nothing to do. But why is it important? Because the press can only see the parts that you allow them to see. And the entire entrances are all top secret like NORAD. So if you're going to bring a bunch of doctors in, you can see them going into the White House. You can watch them going through the fucking gate. You can see them being bussed over to Walter Reed, but you can't see the doctors hanging out at Camp David before he shows up and after he leaves. They just wait a day. Because that's the rule.
Well,
and I think that's what they did on the plane.
you know what? I mean, that is definitely that's definitely something that they would do.
Hide
I
a lie
mean,
with a bigger lie.
Well, I mean, look at Mitch McConnell.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we there's speculation that he's dead. There's speculation that he's they're just keeping. They will keep his carcass plugged into a wall as long as they believe that's what they have to do to keep him from losing his seat and giving Thomas Massey the ability or somebody like that. They will keep him plugged up. And you're right. They're going to do the same thing with Donald Trump. It's going to get to the point where now they can't even daggone video him. One of the things I was going to say, well, the last video I saw of him walking, he was walking around with the friggin' badonkadunk because he was wearing a big ass diaper,
right.
And they're trying, and they don't want that stuff to come out because it is, causing Donald Trump, issues. But you're right. You're right. They will absolutely hide him from the rest of the world, and they will put him in an area where we won't be able to see him or hear from him. And all we'll hear is these liars like Caroline Leavitt saying, well, we just spoke to the president and this is what he wants. And they'll do that as long as they think they can get away with it, as long as they can use his carcass to stay in power. And that's the thing is people got to really start waking up. They got to really start waking up around here because our country is on the verge. We're on the verge of losing our country. Everybody says this is the most important election of your life. This one is. If we don't take back the House and the Senate in 2026 and take our country back by 2028, it's a wrap. We're going to lose. Let me tell you something. We're already in such debt. We've added $4 trillion to our deficit in the last 4 months.
Yep.
Think about that. This is unacceptable. And we cannot continue going down this path. And make no mistake about it, the reason why I'm always throwing stones at the filthy freaking rich about them paying their damn fair share is because I know that every one of those people that are multi-billionaires, there's 19 families. 19 families control $3.6 trillion of wealth in this country. And make no mistake about it, when the shit hits the fan and our country burns to the ground, they're going to get on their Lear jets and they're going to fly over to Europe, or they're going to fly to Australia or New Zealand or wherever the hell they have homes at, and they're going to basically just live their lives as the filthy rich people that they are while we burn to the ground.
Oh, it's a lot simpler than that because there won't be a lot of places for people like that to go while the burning is happening if they trigger it. So that's what the yachts are all about. Now, one of the things is that not all these folks, like Zuckerberg and these other guys don't look like big swimmers. It's not like they snorkel. They certainly don't get a lot of sun. So the idea that their dream has been to have a gigantic fucking mini cruise ship that you could live on for 5 years without docking is not just a toy. It's harder to keep like they can't all have a doomsday plane. But Peter Thiel
Crows.
had this. Oh, I still see you though. If you see me, we'll be back in just one. But you're good. Um, but these ships are part of a Peter Thiel plan. Am I hearing you? Can you hear me? I'm just checking. I don't hear your
I
audio,
can hear you
so
now.
oh, good. Okay, so Peter Thiel had this plan years ago. I don't know if you know about these floating countries that they were going to do these kind of like create these techno islands. This was a real plan. He started a whole company after PayPal to do this, and they started talking about the sovereignty of these things. He was going to first establish his own country on a derelict oil rig that was already standing. He was going to buy an old oil rig that was dead and then attach other shit to it and build from that because the structure was sound and it was within boating distance of everything. Then he realized, oh well, welcome to Waterworld, motherfucker. Like everybody will, with a speedboat, is suddenly going to declare war on Teal Stan and take all their shit. So the whole thing went, everything's got to be crypto. It's got to be in the cloud 3 ways to Sunday so they can't come in and, take my Ayn Rand gold coins like I'm John Wick. And so that all fell apart. The fallback was, well, wherever your ship is moored or wherever it's from, doesn't really matter if it's out at sea. If you're in international waters, you're in international waters. I don't care if it's an American, flagged boat or not. They can't get you unless they've got specific extradition or whatever. And if societies anywhere collapse, those things won't. There's no such thing as a warrant. It's just war. And so those guys all have these bug out boats that they think they're going to do. Now, let me just say for the record, the world is not going to end anytime soon, and we are going to right this ship, the United States. And these assholes are in for a big awakening because, as I've said many times, the heads, especially of the AI companies, are in the business of putting themselves out of business. If the first jobs they eliminate are white collar and coding jobs, guess what they do for a living? Why the fuck are you necessary if I can just take whatever AI exists now and build my own? Because that's what's happening. And there is no future in that business. It might be a utility or something, but there's no person standing on the top of that mountain. Elon Musk is not standing on the top of mountain, the AI mountain ever, because once it achieves its goal of AGI or ASI, no one is in control of it. That's the point. So it's like picking your own successor that will pick up a hammer and kill you with it. It's dumb. And their jobs are the first to fucking go. Because why would you listen to a CEO if you could have a reasoning AI that helps you make legal and business decisions based on more details than a CEO could ever give you? It's the creatives and the people who come up with the ideas and the people who do the functioning work that will drive companies, because the CEO will be a fucking app. Like, it's the dumbest thing, and they know it. They know it to some degree. That's why they're trying to get paid and get off the grid. But these guys, for the time being, we are in a situation where the smartest technology that has ever existed on the planet so far is being discussed by the dumbest motherfuckers we have ever had in power. And they're intoxicated by their own, like, wealth and idiocy at the same time. And Trump thinks he's going to be part of this crew. And I got to say, I don't see it happening. You can see it in the public, and you can see it in Republicans, especially the maggots that have suddenly started jumping off the ship, to borrow an
And they
analogy.
are.
Yep, they absolutely
They
are.
are.
So the question, yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just
Well,
saying
what
the
I was
question is
saying,
how do
what
we
I
get
was,
them to come around to our side by making them recognize that what we're talking about means them no harm, that it benefits them too. And this is, they breathe air, they drink water, they live under the same climate, vaccines work, that kind of shit. Science can be trusted when it's done well by the right people. You've got, those kind of things. It's almost like you're arguing normalcy to a fucking tornado sometimes. But that's really where we are.
well, I agree. I look at Elon Musk. I think that he is not just weird. I don't think he's a genius. I
No.
think that he swoops in, he buys things, and then takes credit for everything.
Yep.
But also in terms of, these are not good people.
Mm-mm.
There's nothing. They don't care. Elon Musk made the comment one time, I could end world hunger. but he won't. For $500 billion, he could have the legacy of them being the man that ended world hunger. He's worth $1 trillion. He would still be worth $500 billion. But he won't do it. You know, it's no different than Mark Zuckerberg, who is some location in the ocean with his 300-yard long yacht that was massive. And they got a phone call on the boat, and they said, hey, look, there is a boat out there with a kid and a dog on it that are basically lost. They've lost power, and we need you to respond. You're the closest boat near those people. We need to save those people. And they ignored the call. Zuckerberg and them wasn't going to break away from their vacation that they were having to go save a child's life because they don't care about you. And that's what gets me is the biggest piece supporters for these pieces of shit are MAGA. But I will tell you, I'm going to tell you this, and I know you know this because you and me come from the same damn area.
Yep.
We were, you know, you and me, we were just separated by a border, but we're from the same damn area.
Yep.
And you and I both know that there was a time 18 months ago that you couldn't go back to where you and I were, where you wouldn't see every other truck with a Trump flag and a F. Joe Biden flag, and everybody was wearing a red MAGA hat and a Trump t-shirt and a Trump sticker on every vehicle. And you know what you don't see anymore right now? You don't see that anymore. I'm in North Carolina, and I'm in an area that Donald Trump won big. This is a Republican-leaning district. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't see Trump flags. I don't see Trump hats, MAGA shirts. None of that's gone. Because the truth is some MAGA have been able to wake up. And then there's some Republicans that have leaned MAGA that have finally woke up and realized this is not right. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm putting boots on the ground because I'm seeking them out. I'm going to their farms. I went to 4 farms in Randolph County. And 3 of those 4 farmers looked at me and said, I've got your back. After I had that conversation with them. And the Republican that didn't say that he would vote for me just looked at me and said, I wish you was a Republican. So I'm telling you right now, people are waking up and it's happening. And this is why these people like Mark Zuckerberg, who wouldn't lift a daggone finger to save a child that is lost at sea because because they're just a peon to him. Right. Make no mistake about it. We're going to hold them accountable. We're going to make them pay their fair share. We're going to absolutely take this country back. We're going to protect Social Security. We're going to help the people of this country. I'm sick and tired of watching everything going to the filthy rich.
Yeah, okay. So I think both of us. Your number's probably higher than mine, but I gotta my life-saving count. I'm proud to say is 11 so far. That I've done, I pulled 7 people out of the creek behind my house or at the pool, in Frankfort, Kentucky. So I had 7 saves. I got the Arrow of Light from my Boy Scout troop for saving 7 lives. I'm very proud of that fact. And then I've done CPR 4 times. In that, and every time I handed it off to the medical professionals, that person was alive when I left them, which is all you can ever do as a civilian in that circumstance. And I think I've only lost one of them. And I think it was Portland. So I think something popped in his head and that was that. Bless his heart. Yeah. But while you're telling that story, I think most of my reaction, if I was in a fucking rowboat, I would have headed in that direction. If it was like, you've got to get to them in 5 hours. And I'm like, I'm going to use every bit of strength I have in my body. That's all I'm doing for the next 5 hours. Right. And it galls me.
It's because we have selfless service within us. See, they are only self-serving. We believe in selfless service. Yeah. We do for others. We work to try to elevate other people. This show that you have, you're not on here trying to just pad your pockets. You're trying to educate people. We're trying to convince people that there could be better in this world if we stand together, if we help each other, if we, instead of throwing stones at the poor, let's elevate the poor. I saw this video the other day that was a spot on video where a guy said, show me one thing that white nationalist Christians support that Jesus Christ asked you to do, because
Right.
all they do is scream about how the immigrant is taking our everything, and
Yeah.
that's all they do. They're not help. They're not welcoming the stranger. They're not feeding the poor. They're not taking care of the elderly. They don't give a shit. But
Right.
yet they call themselves Christians. The hell out of
So
here with that bullshit.
yeah, me too. I like to again. I think the people like Mike Pillow and Caroline Levitt and stuff. I really do try to draw a line in the question of anybody's faith. Like if somebody believes something, as Albert Pike said, everyone's entitled to their own unique mistake, and there's no way that God fits in the corpus callosum of a human being. If you put the omnipresent omniscience of an intelligent God that it is in everything in the universe, and you try to crank that through our brainstem, you get a fuzzy pumper barbershop of bullshit no matter what you do. You will never be able to process the awe of it alone would explode every cell in your body. It's that silly. But when people think God, speaks through me and I show that I'm on team God by wearing these fucking, crosses like they're gang signs. It's like,
Oh my
fuck you. It's a business choice. Mike Pillow started wearing a cross in his ads because he could jump to the front of the line with a section of buyers. People watching late night infomercials, scanning across, seeing Tony Robbins and Slap Chop and all that shit. And, ooh, the guy selling pillows is wearing a fucking cross. He's on my team. I'll buy his pillows instead of the other ones, no matter how he treats his workers, no matter how undemocratic his donations are, no matter what an asshole he is to staff and family and all that other stuff. The nicest people he was ever, the people he was nicest to in the entire world were the crackheads that were living with him while he was high all the time. Which, by the way, can I just say for the record, Mike Pillow became a crackhead after he formed my Pillow, not before. There's this idea that like he salvaged his life and then started a business and boom. No, he got rich and then as idle hands and idle nostrils and idle thumbs, I guess, being the devil's workshop. It was turnkey, just did its own thing. So he just fucking flopped and started doing drugs because he didn't have anything else to do. He couldn't think of any other contribution as a Christian to make to the world. Hey, you got a lot of free time now. Maybe go like Jimmy Carter and fucking drive some nails, you prick. And he didn't.
Yeah.
He just went to a house. And you know who stopped him? You know who talked about, who God's messengers were that told him, dude, you're an addict and you need help? The other addicts in the house. You know why? Because they were worried that the meal ticket would drive up. He was paying the rent.
Yeah.
He was paying for the drugs. They're like, dude, if you die, the rest of us aren't going to have any more crack. So they talked him into getting help, literally for that reason. It just that, but the idea of these assholes wearing these symbols, which have meaning, and people can disagree with this, and I know there's an atheist leaning especially in the Democratic side of things, where it's just an automatic disdain for the symbol itself. But I want you to know that symbol, that disdain for that symbol, does not come from Christians. It comes from these poser motherfuckers who use it as a weapon. Everything that you're like, wars have been started over religion. No, they fucking have not. People have used religion as their point for doing it, but the reason was, I want your farmland, I want your water, I want your women. That's what the religion had nothing to do with it. It was how they motivated people back when no one could fucking read. So like that part drives me crazy. But when these people use this symbol as a goddamn gang sign, like, hey man, I got you. It has nothing to do. That's why Trump says God and religion like it's a fucking can of beans, generic beans from, 1977. Remember the generics? I'm sure you do. In West Virginia and Kentucky, we ate that shit all the time. White label with the green stripe that just had beans on it or whatever the fuck. That's what he thinks of religion. It's just a fucking can of beans. And he doesn't care about any of the meaning to it, and neither do these assholes. Sorry, that's my rant for the day. God damn it.
And that rant is why over 1,300 people are watching right now. Folks,
that's right.
Let me tell you something.
On one
That's
channel
why
alone.
I love coming on here. Let me tell you something. I don't know. Andrea might have been a part of it, but your guys actually reached out to my team and scheduled me on this show. Let's keep that going.
I agree.
Because I'm going nonstop, but I'm telling you right now, if they put this, they'll put this at least, I think, weekly where we can continue. So let's keep going that right
I
there,
love
because
it.
I love coming on this show. I
I
learn something every time I come on this show. And
I
I want to also
appreciate you.
state that, when you listen to Caroline Levitt, who's been wearing her cross everywhere, but yet all she does is spew lies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. We gotta wake up and realize. I'm going to tell you, and I'm not lying to you, and I mean this, because I'm running for Congress. And when you run for Congress, you go to all kinds of places. And some places that you go to, you also go to churches. Because believe it or not, a lot of churches invite you because they want to know what you're about. And I'm going to tell you, I have been attending churches of color. And, a lot of people don't realize, but, when you go to church and a church of color, it's not just an hour-long event where you go in and check the block. It's not. This is a multi-hour-long event. And when you get there, you look around and nobody is bored. They're not there because they're checking the block. They're there because, during slavery, the only time that the slaves were able to be themselves and be able to gather without having the white man there over top of them was when they were in church. And that has never stopped. It's still their gathering, and they do it all the time, and they actually enjoy it. And the music is amazing, and the youth, the things that they do with the youth is wonderful, and I'm like, wow, this is what right looks like.
Yep.
And then I can sit here and I can look at some of these pastors that are MAGA pastors that are screaming hatred. And look, if your pastor believes that war in Iran is the best thing, you need to find another church.
Yeah.
If your pastor is telling you to hate people in the LGBTQ community instead of welcoming them in and accepting them as your brother or sister, then you need to find another church. I'm so sick and tired of watching these people use religion to try and act as if they're better than other people. Look, I know better than anybody, and the truth is that I've never walked around claiming religion for things like that, because to be honest with you, I was raised Catholic, and it was stand up, kneel down, say the prayer, take communion, stand up, kneel down, leave. That was it. Wasn't fun for a young kid that had ADHD, because I sat next to my mother, and if I went, she squeezed me with her nails because she wanted me to be quiet, because that's how the Catholic Church was. When I turned 18, I said, I'm done. I'm leaving religion. And I left religion for a long time. And I started back to religion, and I was in that religion for another 2 years, but it wasn't Catholic. It was just Southern Baptist. And I realized that it was about the money. We were taking up daggone offerings 2 and 3 times every service. They were running 4 services a week. And at the end of the month, they might give the recovery shelter $1,000. But other than that, everybody, pastor had a Mercedes, wife had a Mercedes. Everybody in the parking lot was in raggedy bald tires. So I realized that, those are the people that, they're that seed philosophy. If you give me a whole bunch and I have all this wealth, well, you could too, but you got to continue donating. And if you donate more, I promise you it's going to happen. It may not happen this week, but it may happen next week. It's like lottery. It's like they're selling lottery tickets.
That's right. That's exactly
what they're doing. They're filthy rich, and they want you to think that because they are supportive of religious, that you too can have the wealth that they have, but you got to plant that seed. You can't afford groceries. Send a bigger check.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that garbage.
And that's
what the Republican Party has done. They've taken that mentality, and people got to wake up.
Agreed. I would argue that they haven't taken the mentality, they've taken the methodology of it, because Trump is basically a revival preacher bullshitting his way from town to town and collecting the money out of the till. Because we, like I've said before, they like on our church in Peaks Mill when I was growing up, every so often we'd have a preacher come through, and they all had a very dirty story, a very borderline sexy true crime story they tell about their past before Jesus saved them, right? And that, I had the wine and the women and the song and the demon cocaine and right and all that stuff. And everybody's like, "Oh my!" Like everybody watched the thing like it was like you're watching a true
Where?
crime podcast. Yeah. Oh, that sounds and a motel.
Where can I
And
go protest?
that's right, exactly right. And then they're like, "But thank you, Jesus, for saving me." Like you get out of this. Like you just told a dirty joke for Jesus. Is effectively what it is. It's like, but the methodology that they've come with, you see a lot of this, I would say, in evangelical churches, which again, even evangelizing is sales. That's the purpose of it, and it's why Trump is so popular with the evangelists, anyways, is because they're all just car salesmen that don't drive the car they sell. Boy, it looks good on you though, and if you just get in one of these, man, you'll be feeling great. But they don't drive it. They wouldn't drive that piece of shit and they think it's garbage. That's why he calls Franklin Graham the greatest salesman in the world, because that's calling him a bullshit artist to his fucking face. That's what Trump did. He doesn't believe any of this stuff. And again, there are parallels in the Darwinist, evolutionist, atheist crowd, which would be Peter Thiel in that crowd. The idea, or the nationalists, like the white nationalists who don't necessarily call themselves Christian, the more like Ayn Randian types, they think they are the example of the master race. They think they are the pinnacle of evolution and that other people need to die because if you're with them, you're the clean, pure race, but everybody else is shit. It's the same thing in different outfits. It's this, sell bullshit to these masses and suck it up. Go, you're in the in crowd, but you're not really. And so when, what you do see though, when you see people of real faith, the problem they have, the challenge they have, is that they can't do what Caroline Levitt does and lie about it or judge or be full of shit because they're actually following the tenets of what they say. So they keep their mouth shut and they try to be polite. What Caroline Levitt does, technically, is bear false witness. That's what she's doing. It's not just lying. Lying isn't even really mentioned in the Bible except when other people do it. But as a commandment, it is bearing false witness. She bears false witness every fucking day. That's her job. And increasingly, it seems like, and I don't know if she quit because she quit, but she seemed to know it. And
Was she
maybe,
on the ship? Was she on the
well,
aircraft?
that's been the story. Okay, so back to my belief about they put him on a medical plane is the story. I think she was going for a while, the baby thing, and then she was going to use that. That's my exit plan, and I've had it since January. I think that's what she was doing. Other people are just getting the fuck out, and it's really just because whatever you thought of Trump a year ago, he ain't that guy now, and it's getting worse all the time. He's wearing a fucking kitty litter box in the back of his pants so he doesn't shit down the back of his legs. That's different than some sort of bizarre Ubermensch. Natalie Hart. So his Ivanka stand-in that rode in a trunk just to be close, right? That lady. He just blathers shit. Oh, sorry, did I lose you for a second? You better? Okay.
Yeah, I got sound now.
Yeah, she blathers. He blathers a bunch of shit. She forms it into these Trumpish, Truth Social posts that are getting longer and longer because he doesn't want stuff edited. And then they dump him online all night in a programmed fashion to make it look like he never sleeps. The man sleeps 13 hours a day and still nods off in his office. Period. Fuck off with this idea that the man has more energy than yada yada. Nobody believes that. Not even Pete Hegseth at this point. He laughs at him when he starts nodding off. He's done it twice. Where Hegseth is like that and forgets that he's not supposed to laugh at the boss. And so a lot is made about the fact that, again, and rightly so, she looks like Ivanka. She's obviously kind of his squeaky Frome, his Patricia Van Houten or whatever, the Manson family girls who would do anything and show up outside and cut a fucking X in their forehead for him, that belief. And that's what he wants. He wants them just like Kim Jong-un or Mao Zedong's concubines or, fucking Putin's supermodels that he births his babies with. That's what he wants. That's what he thinks he deserves, and that's what he gets. Natalie Harp certainly fits that bill. But her real job, the human printer part, is actually the more concerning and embarrassing part of it all because of what it covers. what it hides. And what it hides is this man is decrepit, and he is and he sleeps 13 hours a night minimum, and he's nodding off during the day and can't be bothered to do his own job. So her job is to show him a bunch of pictures of him with George Washington and go, "Do you like this one? Yep, check. Do you like this one? Look at this one. This is great, boss." And just grabs AI garbage to show him so he can go, "I love that."
Yep.
And then she posts it in the middle of the night. And then whenever he's talking, she'll grab screeds of what he says and type it out like a stenographer, and then put chunks of it in posts for later. That's why he'll respond to things that were news stories in the middle of the day at 2 o'clock in the morning as if they're new. They didn't. He was blathering that while watching TV while she's in executive time with him in the West Wing, and then they post it later, and everybody on Fox News goes, "This man is tweeting at all hours. He's awake all the time." No, he's fucking not. He's in the and my argument was on the C-230A or 32A. I think he was in a chemically induced coma for half the flight. That's what they didn't want you to see. They had to knock
It
his
makes
ass out.
it does make sense.
Yep. So yeah, she's because of her looks. If she was less attractive, people would be focusing on what she does, which is more troubling than some. I mean, we've all seen Jim Jones documentaries. Fuck. Phil's waiting in the wings, but I want to remind everybody, ojeda4nc.com. And I would love to have you on every week, especially leading up to the election at your leisure, sir. If we got to move it around for you Monday or Friday or something like that, I'm glad to accommodate, at certain weeks, because I know you're out there doing the actual trail work, and I greatly appreciate you, and I greatly appreciate the work you're trying to do. So we will find a way, as
I love
yeah,
that. I love that. I always enjoy being on this show. I feel like every time I leave here, I have been educated. You've done a great job today. I would
thanks.
like to ask everybody on here. I do a live called Ojeda Live at 8:30 p.m. every night. I do it 7 nights a week, 365 days a year. I've been doing it for 12 years. It's a 30-minute show. I talk about news stuff like that. But obviously, I run that. I
Hmm.
do that show every night. Love to get some of you folks on there. Always love seeing people coming over from Hal.
Yep.
Because look, I think both of us we're on the same team, man. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Hal, I
Yeah.
absolutely adore being on your show.
Thank you, man.
And I want to make sure we can do this. And I'm gonna tell you, when I win this and I'm in Congress, I want to come on your show often because
Yes.
I think that's important. I want people to know what we're talking about in Congress. I want people to know what we're voting on. I want people to know the ramifications of what happens if we do something or we don't do something.
Hmm.
So I appreciate you.
Hmm.
Let Philip know. Always everybody needs to make sure they keep him and the Ukrainian people in their prayers.
Hmm.
Our nation has turned our backs. Not our nation. Donald Trump has turned his
Yeah.
back, and by doing that, turned our backs against the Ukrainian people, and that is the worst thing in the world. Right now, North Korean troops are actually fighting in Ukraine for Russia, and
Yep.
this is unacceptable.
While Russia
They're a
is helping
sovereign
target
nation.
our troops.
Exactly. And we have a daggone wannabe dictator in Donald Trump that is now siding with Kim Jong Un. They're going to use buzzwords like, "Oh, the Democrats are communists and socialists," when Donald Trump is literally sitting on the lap of a friggin' real communist. What the
Yeah.
hell, brother? I
Yeah.
appreciate y'all. Y'all be giving
Bless
each
you.
other airborne.
I
Airborne.
appreciate it. All right, I'll let you go. Cheers. Thank you so much. There he goes. ojeda4nc.com. Everybody check that out. I'm going to bring in Philip in 1 second. And let's see. I got to finish typing this. What was I doing? There we go. Yeah, there it is. It's always something. And our dear friend Philip Ittner is right there. There he is. And we'll bring in, hold on, Frink. There you go. Welcome,
Very
sir. Good to
close to the
see you.
camera.
That's okay. It may be because I've got the I got you I had to zoom in a little on the major. So there you go. How about that? A little better for you? Wait 1 second. There you go. How about
Oh
that?
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's a
I
little
just
bit, little
I
less right in your
yeah,
face.
the major and I both tend to move around a lot in our shots. So I had to kind of chase him down a couple times
Well,
because
I'm sitting at my standing, work table, so
yeah.
I'm not going to be moving a lot.
Excellent. So, first of all, hi, good to see you. Nice to be on a swearable episode with you. How are you? And you're back from Odessa, clearly. How was the trip?
I am.
Yeah, on a personal
Well,
level.
I just got back today. It's about a 5 or 6 hour drive. Um, Odessa is a really lovely place. I'm actually thinking about going back down for a little while.
Hmm.
Because I have guests lined up uh, over the next 4 or 5 days, which will have enough episodes to go for about a month, which is kind of when the season, the good weather ends or starts to end in Odessa. And it's just it's we had some attacks while I was there. We had a single ballistic that came in one day. I was at a rooftop pool,
Mm.
an infinity pool
Wow.
in Odessa. Odessa is it's a huge tourism draw,
Hmm.
mostly for Turks and Germans.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of infrastructure, and domestically for Ukrainians, there's a lot of infrastructure for tourism there that is kind of limping along during the time of the war, but is still very much open. And so it was surreal. I was sitting in this infinity pool, drinking a nice cold draft beer in the pool bar, and I'm sitting there watching anti-aircraft, you know, defense measures go up into the air. I see an Su-27, I think it was, flew overhead to pursue something else. And I mean, it was, you're sitting in a pool where you could order, oysters. You could have,
Right.
lovely seafood lunch. And
Hmm.
meanwhile, surreally, you're watching um, air defenses and an air attack going on. I mean, it's
Right.
very, very odd. We had a night in Odessa, or we had a day in Odessa, where it was just continuous air raid sirens, and then it would go off for 15 minutes, and then another one would come up, and it's just aggravating. So there is no safe place in Ukraine; you can't escape it. But Odessa is a lovely city, and it's yeah, it really is. It's got, my friend says it's more like New Orleans. I say it's got a little mix of San Francisco or San Diego in there. But it's a seaside coastal town uh, that, and the Black Sea is incredibly beautiful. When I first went down there, about 6 months into the full scale invasion, and I'd been there many times before, I was struck by the fact that the sea was empty.
Hmm.
This time I was down there and there were limited ships leaving.
Hmm.
I would see maybe 8 to 10, 12, maybe, uh, container ships out on the horizon,
Hmm.
which, is for Odessa incredibly diminished, but better than nothing. And certainly not the absolute zero that it was at the beginning of the war.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's a very pleasant place to be. It's got great restaurants and very cafe culture and all the rest of it. So I'm considering going back down for a little while longer after I get these interviews done that I can then have in the bank, and maybe spend another week there or something.
Yeah.
Because look, this winter, we all know it. Everybody in Kiev knows it. This is going to be a really difficult um, winter. The Russians are going to, in some ways, I think it might be a make or break uh,
Yeah.
year. I think 2006, 2007 are going to be um, consequential
Right.
in the war, because for different reasons, both countries are kind of at their wits' ends.
Hmm.
They're at their limits.
Hmm.
Um, Ukraine, obviously, for the same problems that they've always had.
Smaller country attacked
You
by a bigger
smaller
country and
country,
limited, having to rely
less
on others to back
people.
them up.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And then added to that, they do have a mobilization problem. And of course, now that the Trump administration is I mean, let's face it, they're never going to actually get on board with helping Ukraine.
Hmm.
They're always going to be the ones demanding that Ukraine makes that
Hmm.
the one who is attacked makes the concessions. They have political problems here. There's continued issues with the
Fedorov.
shakeup in the
Hmm.
Fedorov and the shakeup in the defense ministry. I understand that a new defense minister was sworn in today. I don't know much about him,
Hmm.
but it does look like they found a replacement for Fedorov. I think Fedorov's case is probably lost. I don't think he comes back. I
Hmm.
think he's politically finished. Um, he also did something controversial in the last 24 hours or so, in that he said he thought there should be presidential elections.
Right.
And this is a really controversial issue in
Sure.
Ukraine, and the majority of Ukrainians do not want to have an
Hmm.
election. They don't want to have an election for a variety of reasons. And this is not everybody.
Hmm.
Ukraine is not it's not a groupthink. It's a
Yeah.
democracy.
Yep.
So, everybody gets
Or the
to
word
express
majority
their
wouldn't be
opinions.
necessary. Right.
Right. So,
Yeah.
anyhow, I think the majority of Ukrainians accept the idea that presidential elections are not viable right now, not least of which is because, and I think probably foremost, is that what do you do with the people who are living under occupation? How
Right.
do they cast their ballot? And there are lots and lots of people in Ukraine who still think that those territories can be recovered when the thinking is here, when the Putin regime collapses and Russia falls into a really severe period of uh, a lack of any kind of stability, that might be the time for Ukraine to actually, because the soldiers
Yeah.
will go back home.
Yeah.
They'll take their AK-47s with them, by the way,
Well, to
which
that
is
point,
another problem for Russia.
yeah. So one of the things that came up was that Putin apparently called for his economic development board or whatever they're called to prepare for the return of Russian soldiers. And again, you'd think in a rotation you would do that anyways, but and it's hard to tell whether this is a him attempting to claim victory and we're going to win and leave in the same way that like Trump is trying to claim victory and get the fuck out of Iran in a lot of ways. That it might just be blather. But the blather is pointed in a specific direction that it wasn't before, which is kind of telling. And the way he's talking about it is you're going to have all these soldiers coming back from the front and they're going to need jobs. So we've got to start thinking about where they're going to work. Um, the idea that he has any kind of real target for that timing is a little silly. But it's, my full disclosure, my grandfather was in World War II, and one of his jobs when he came back was to help arrange for soldiers who were returning temporary housing before they went home. So they set up these apartment blocks in Florida when these ships would arrive, and people would get off there, and they did it all down the East Coast, I think, too, where you were assigned a certain number of these soldiers who were coming back. They had to basically like station for a while. They're like debriefing and cooling off, returning all their gear, going through stuff, finishing out technically their last few days and paperwork before they went home, before they went back to Oklahoma or Kentucky or wherever the fuck they were from. And that has to be done. That's something you do in these circumstances. I don't think Hegseth will bother with our soldiers, for example. He's not even bothering to let them go ashore right now. But in theory, this is something Russia would have to prep for. I, the idea that they're doing it is a fucking joke, and they're honestly going to be patted down for guns or weapons and handed a bottle of vodka, and probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably likely what'll happen. It won't stop the chaos that's going to come, but yeah, they'll have to make sure they don't have any weapons for sure. They don't care about their psychological well-being. You're right; they will just give them a bottle of vodka. Um, and then they'll send them back to towns and villages that don't have any work for them, because in order to achieve what Putin is kind of outlining here, you have to get off a wartime economy.
Right.
And people laud Putin for putting his country on a wartime footing, a wartime economy, very early in the full scale invasion. And by some people, I mean the kind of pro Moscow, Russia is an inevitability and a force of nature. You know,
Hmm.
uh, Ukraine has no choice. These are the kind of guys who were saying, uh, look how fast they went to a war economy. Well, it's
Hmm.
easier to go into a war economy than to transition back to a normal
Yep.
economy, because all those tractor factories that were turned into tank factories, and all those textile factories that were making shoes and pants and whatever, but that are now making uniforms and camouflage netting and stuff like that. uh, it's easier to transition into that than to pull. Now, I'm not an economist, but people far smarter than me have made that point.
Hmm.
So they're most likely going to return to towns that don't have work for them, as
Hmm.
Russia's economy transitions back into uh, a normal economy. And in addition to that, if you were a technician anywhere involved in the petrochemical uh, industry, which is, of course, a primary industry in Russia, well, a lot of those places have been blown up. The Ukrainians are attacking them, and their refinery and their distribution and their storage and all the rest of it have been
Hmm.
significantly damaged by Ukrainian attacks or sabotage.
Yeah.
So again, another reason why these guys are going to be coming, and they're going to be messed up, and there's going to be trouble, and he is really, Putin is really screwed. I mean, he
Yeah.
really is screwed. So you know, people have said that it's a reason why he's not interested in talking peace, which means that the war is going to be extended. Um, I think that you know he'll hang on as long as he can, because more likely than not, he'll lose it all when the war
Right.
does end. Not an inevitability. There are ways he can escape that, if he can kind of present a prize or something. If he can say that he took all of Donbass and now everybody in eastern Ukraine speaks Russian, and
Right.
all of that kind of stuff. And look, Russians also don't want to depose the czar. It's a scary proposition. Russia in its history, uh, when there is a sudden removal of the center of gravity in Russian politics, which is how Russian society is built,
Hmm.
they usually go through a very, very tumultuous and oftentimes bloody period of their history. I mean, there was a period of history called the Time of Troubles, when uh, uh, Ivan the Fourth, which we remember as Ivan the Terrible, killed his only son and
Hmm.
heir in a fit of madness. Actually, ironically enough, over a failed military campaign in Crimea, and he killed his own son, so there was no successor. And then there was this incredibly long period that they call the Time of Troubles, where everybody was vying for control, and there was a false claim to the throne, and in the form of this guy called the false Dmitri. And Russians are very, very well aware of this. I mean, then soldiers come back from the Napoleonic War, having seen the civilization of Western Europe. They demand reforms, and they are violently put down. In the Decembrist movement of the mid 19th century. And of course, we have the Bolshevik Revolution. You remove the czar, and you have a civil war. And the Bolsheviks under Lenin were not guaranteed victory. there were a lot of other factions that could
Hmm.
have regained control of Russia, but it happened to be Lenin, and so we had the Soviet Union. And then, actually, in a relatively bloodless coup, although not completely bloodless, we have the collapse of the Soviet Union, the rise of Yeltsin. You know, people forget Yeltsin fired tanks on the
Hmm.
parliament. You know,
Yeah.
about 2 or 3 years after he took control of the Russian Federation, Putin comes into power, and it's apartment building blowing up, and it's the Second Chechen War. So there's blood there. There's a lot of false flag stuff that he does. Um, Anytime there is a transition of power in Russia, it usually means bloodshed.
Hmm.
So a lot of people might accept a kind of token victory if
Hmm.
Putin were to present it the right way and say, "Look, we got all of Donbass. You know, if they could take some of the fortress cities or whatever,"
Yeah.
and he that might be, again, because he doesn't want to be thrown from power, because if he does, he's going to get killed, and a lot of people in Russia don't want to get rid of him because he has, to their mind, even going through all this, and that gets into a question of at what point do they cross that line and say it's not worth it. But
Yeah.
even with all this, Putin has stabilized the country in a lot of ways from the post-Soviet collapse. So, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know what's going to happen this winter. I don't know what's going to happen in 2006, 2007. But I do think that there's a chance that both sides, and we haven't talked about uh, the Ukrainian kind of situation yet, but
Yeah.
Russia's in a really, really bad spot, and it's Putin's fault, and he knows it. Most Russians know it, and he might be caught between a rock and a hard place. So,
Yeah. Well, that would be kind of in relation to this. Putin makes rare admission that Kiev's huge strikes are, quote, causing us harm. He denied that the strikes had caused critical consequences, but he, of course, would. Um, where is it? Um, yeah,
well, a couple of days
yeah.
ago, a couple of days ago, I was down in Odessa, but I did see, I mean,
Hmm.
the Ukrainians smacked Moscow very, very hard,
Yeah.
and they're targeting primarily the wild berries,
Hmm.
Russia's Amazon, and that is having a direct effect on your average Russian. And in addition to that, it looks like there are gas lineups at the gas stations again, which is a
Yeah.
very visible, tangible result of the
Hmm.
war. And so, I mean, it's we're going to be headed into the sixth year of this war, and I don't think I don't think it will happen suddenly.
Hmm.
But I do think the coming year will be pretty consequential.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. I would say that I mean, the wild berries thing in and of itself. I was noticing. Let's see. Let me try to put this up. I'll show you on screen just so people can recognize what's happening here. The issue with wild berries, of course, is that if you're hitting defense related stuff or whatever, it might be far enough away from the city center or unknown to the people what it is if it's a secret military thing where people might see the fire, but the people around them could say, "Oh, there was a chemical plant fire there. There was a blah blah." It didn't, well, the drones didn't hit us. It was something else, and only the people close to it know. I don't know what the tightness of controls as far as messaging is in Russia as it is in China, but like if the minute you're like, "Oh my God, a drone hit this," they'll take your account down and expunge all the video and sometimes arrest you. And in Russia, I think it's a little looser than that, just because they don't have the mechanic in place to do it. But at a certain point your bullshit runs out, and these folks are, they're like, oh, that was a big building. I'm fairly certain that had a military insignia on it earlier. But when it gets to these things. This is hitting commerce. And if you're on a war footing in your economy, like you said, then everything you buy or sell has a financial impact to it. And if the leader of your country literally says, we are putting our economy on a war footing, guess what? By international law, that makes all of your businesses targets because you're saying every dime we make is going to attack this other country, and it's an act of war. And so the other country that's being attacked under international law would have the right to go, oh, okay, well, if we can blow up an ammo depot, we can blow up the place that funds the ammo depot just as much. Hence, Wildberries burning down in that regard. And
Well,
why? Yeah,
and Russian soldiers oftentimes do ship equipment through wild berries, or they'll
right.
they'll get uh, you know uh, towns and villages will kind of like rally round and let's make sure that we send a scope
Mm-hmm.
or night vision goggles or something to
Mm-hmm.
our beloved
It's how China. It's how
Yevgeny.
China. It's how China ships hunting rifles to Russia, under that can be made fully automatic. That they do knock off AK-47 mechanisms in China. You can buy them, and that's how they get there. That's they ship them as if they're products under under the guise that, well, this isn't a machine gun, it's a hunting rifle, and all you need are two parts, which we mail you in a different package, which just says like desk accessories in it, and you slap those two things together, and in the United States, that's how we get mass shooters. In Russia, that's how you get an army.
Yeah.
The you
So
know
no, wild berries is 100% a legitimate target.
mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely, and also it does, let's admit it, have the added additional advantage of bringing the war home to
Yeah,
Russians.
right. That's bring it where they can't
If you
pretend it's not
if
happening.
you yeah, if Ukrainians have to live with a general fear of Russian attacks because the Russians are pretty arbitrary in their attack. I mean, they blow up markets and schools and hospitals and things like that. So, if that's the game the Russians want to play,
Mhm.
within reason, I think the Ukrainians have every right in the world to let Russians know that, hey, you're at war with us, and you're not just going to get away with this war without some um, personal difficulty to you. So, again, another reason why I think the wild berries attacks are
Yeah,
totally legitimate.
right. And yeah, and curiously enough, the it's that as an answer to the civilian targets that like an economic business target or whatever, what have you. And obviously a facility with people in it is a facility with people in it, and innocent civilians who are working as fucking warehouse box stackers and the like, are different than soldiers on a front line. Russia's not making that distinction at all. They're just hitting apartment buildings and schools and hospitals and shit like that, because that's their terrorism metrics. The idea is that you shake people's tree by blowing up a Amazon like facility over there. That's one way to make the public realize there is a price to be paid for declaring war on another country, right? And that country striking you back directly, not terrorist acts, not that kind of stuff, but firing something from their border into your border because that's the kind of dispute it is. That's very different than Russia just firing at apartment buildings to terrorize the
Mhm.
people of Ukraine. Picking and choosing some Ukrainians that in its mind are expendable, intentional collateral damage in that regard, where they're targeting certain civilians is like, we're not upping it by hitting the parliament, but we'll scare everybody else for thinking it could happen to them next. You live in an apartment, now you're scared that your building might be next, and that's the goal. And it's ironic that obviously that Putin came into power through an apartment bombing that he more than likely rigged to help set himself up, and that's one of his primary tools in this situation. And he doesn't understand how it could backfire with sort of a nationalist fervor. That's exactly how he got in power, was that people like gathered around him because, oh my God, our apartment buildings are being attacked, as if that isn't actually happening in Ukraine as well, which it clearly is. So I
Well,
guess,
yeah, and
yeah,
Ukraine isn't targeting civilian energy infrastructure.
right.
The I mean, that's why one of the reasons I went down to Odessa and may go back again is because they're going to. I'm very very concerned that they're going to break the the electrical production facilities in Kiev. There's concern about water treatment plants. Um, last winter was extremely difficult and pushed Ukraine right to the edge. And I have a real deep concern that this winter they may break that
Hmm.
infrastructure, and we may go for extended periods of time with no electricity, no heating, maybe no water. They're gonna go hell for leather this winter because I think even they recognize this might be a make or break period of time for them. So um, yeah, it's going to
Hmm.
be a tough winter. And you're right. I mean, and you're right. I mean, the Ukrainians aren't doing the same to Moscow.
Yeah.
They're hitting wild berries. They're hitting, you know, yes, sometimes they just kind of chuck a drone in there, and you know, that's just the way it is. Um, but Ukrainians have been very cautious about trying to keep the moral high ground. And if they start doing to Moscow what Moscow has done to Kiev and other cities, um, it won't do anything, and
Hmm.
because the Russian state doesn't care about its people. Um, you could aggravate those people into overthrowing their government, but that is a long stretch.
Hmm.
Um, so the Ukrainians are not going to do to Russian cities what Russians are doing to Ukrainian cities. So, um, I mean, yeah, I see somebody in the comment section saying that their infrastructure in Crimea, that they're doing that. Yes, that is an exception, but that is because Crimea as a peninsula is a militarized peninsula. And pretty much everything, except for some summer cottages and things like that, and even them, most of them are owned by military members. Um, is because Crimea is at the center of this conflict, and
Hmm.
it is not a sustainable peninsula. It can be deprived of all sorts of water or petrol or whatever else that would force the Russians to withdraw from the peninsula, and in so doing, I mean that would be it. That would be
Right.
if the Russians fully left Crimea. There's no reason for them to be in Donbass anymore. The only reason they want Donbass is to support
Is
Crimea.
Yeah, land bridge to
So
Crimea.
is the land bridge, yeah.
We've been talking a lot about obviously gas prices over here because of Trump's war of choice with Iran and the ridiculousness of the follow up and all that kind of stuff is a regular thing. And that um, gas is now more expensive in the United States at this part in this part of the year than it has ever been. Even under Joe Biden, even during post COVID, when they were blaming him for the world coming back online and limited fuel, supplies driving up price, all that kind of stuff. And I've made the point several times that like when you've got, you know, $4.50, $5 gas in California, it's tough. It's tough on people. It always will be. But in West Virginia, it's worse. If you have if people in California can, per capita, you got $86,000 to $112,000, as per capita income there. Those people, even if the poorer people don't have that money, they can raise their prices on stuff they do because those people above them can absorb a little bit more for their gas prices and those kind of things. So there's more wiggle room. But if you live in West Virginia and everybody around you, including your boss, makes $27,000 a year, The impact of that $4 a gallon has a huge impact, more so
Mm.
than you're going to feel that day to day. It affects the meal you eat that day, as opposed to, oh shit, we might have to cancel a streaming service or put off plumbing work to next month or hope the air conditioner lasts or whatever. Repairs on the roof can wait till, maybe November. We can put it on a credit card. There's a huge difference in that cushion, what I would say is the FAFO cushion between FA and FO, that is non-existent in West Virginia and places like that, and Appalachia and Mississippi, red states by and large. The same thing is true in Russia. So when you talk about the gas lines, Gazprom Neft just put a restriction on how many gallons of gas you could buy at a time. And this is because of, people storing it thinking it's going to get worse. And so they're buying, they're pulling up with canisters and just filling gas, and storing it on their property and that kind of stuff, which is, by the way, drunken guy with gun coming back from the war and a bunch of gas cans is always a recipe for disaster, especially when it's every other house. But they limited these things, and the price of gas in Russia, considering what it's basically just a gas station with nukes, is about $3.40 a gallon, which is a lot. It's up 20%, I think, just in the last 6 months or so. And they make it like they are capable, unlike the United States, of refining their own oil. Our refineries are for a different grade of oil. It's very odd, but it's true. But Russia's, they sell refined products. They can make it themselves, and yet they're having to ration it for a myriad of reasons, even though you would think they can't sell it. The oil is backing up the wells themselves. It's just there aren't people, I guess, to run the refineries at full capacity. And some of them have been hit. I'm sure that is a part of it as well. But the economic impact of almost $4 a gallon gas in Russia is very similar to the impact it would have nationwide on as it does in West Virginia. Because what the average Russian makes, what their life is like, unlike no matter what Tucker Carlson fucking tells people, ain't great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, I don't know what it is exactly right now, but you know, Russian monthly wages are in the hundreds, maybe not even $1,000 a month sort of thing, and that's if you're getting paid regularly. There
Right.
are all sorts of ways that employers evade paying their workers for months on end.
Hmm.
So, this is your average Russian is extremely poor. And if, even the smallest change in
Yeah.
any of the
They make.
ramifications of
You're right.
petrol,
I just looked it up. It's the average gross monthly salary of Tucker Carlson's favorite country's citizens is somewhere
800.
between is 1,100 to 1,500 at the current exchange rate, and that's the
Yeah, okay.
top. That's the average. The median monthly income is 73,000 rubles, which is around 800. Is what you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
the median. That's what most people make or less. And again, there are tons of oligarchs and their families and other, fucking gangster assholes that skew that number like crazy. In the same way that I suppose in California, the median income is skewed slightly by, Silicon Valley or some other places like that. But and the heavily, like entrenched real estate money that's in Southern California, San Diego, up the coast, Napa, shit like that. but 73,400 rubles per month is the median monthly income. The minimum wage there is 27,000 rubles, which is like what, $300, 250, something like that. The minimum
Yeah.
wage in Russia is $250 a month. And then gas is 350 in dollars, in US dollars. Like, imagine that as part of your expenses compared to, the rest of Europe, much less the United States, Canada, fuck, Mexico has a wider margin between wage and cost of living than Russia does. This is like, and so again, uh, everybody talks about how in the United States we're on the edge of a class war revolution. The billionaires are, the workers of the world will unite in the United States and rise up and guillotines and blah blah blah. And we're nowhere near the actual lived experience drop off that Russians are. Like nowhere close.
Yeah, most Americans,
Mhm.
not all,
Yeah,
have no idea what real poverty looks like. I mean, I know there are
yeah,
some pretty tough spots in the states. Dotted, all over the country. I'm not
yep,
wearing rose-colored glasses, but you go to a country that has real poverty. Go to
right,
Pakistan. Go to
hmm,
Russia. Go to North Africa.
right,
It's the level of poverty in those
hmm,
places. Now, mind you, they're used. Say they're used to that. That's not the right way to say it. That is their environment, and they have never known anything other than that.
right,
For an American to have a drop off like that, and their expectation of what their standard of living should be,
yep,
would have would be likely to cause more social instability than
hmm,
you know than you don't suddenly go from, I don't want to offend the country, but well, let's stick with Russia. You don't go from a standard of living in the United States to the average standard of living in Russia
hmm,
without massive upheaval in America. Um, Russia goes from Russia to being Rwanda.
hmm,
Um, is and again, no offense to Rwanda, but goes to extreme poverty. Um, they'll they'll be more adaptive to that than I think the American
hmm.
equivalent. So, yeah, I don't think class war is happening anytime soon in America.
Well,
Plus the fact, and we talked
yeah,
about, and plus the fact, and really importantly, as somebody who's covered wars for 30 years, Americans wouldn't stomach a war for a week. A
yeah,
civil war or social
no.
upheaval
What that
like these
actually
guys are kind of
entails,
predicting, what that
right?
actually looks
Yeah,
like,
right.
Americans would be clamoring for police or National Guard like on day
Intervention.
3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed. But
because
I
it's
want to clarify this to like the folks because like there are rich Russian oligarchs on equal bearing to especially in lifestyle to Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and the people that we vilify and often rightly so in this country for the income that and the money that they have versus the average person and below, right? This clear and yes, they're the class that's trying to pull the ladder up behind them. And the American social infrastructure has become so ingrained in our country that again, even Josh Hawley starts to bitch when there's no SNAP benefits coming to Missouri, right? There's like they might pretend they want smaller government, but they never fucking do when it means their people, that kind of stuff. So, but in comparison, you have I mean, there was an argument, they always talk about how Elon Musk is the richest guy in the world or Adelson or they jockey for it or whatever. A lot of that's in stock in the businesses themselves, not cash on hand. And cash on hand, apparently, Vladimir Putin is the richest guy in the world. Like literally just stacks and stacks of Russian and foreign currency, gold, all kinds of shit like that, right? $200 billion liquid net worth. Not to mention his fucking Sochi palace and his other offshoot places and God knows what properties and how many fucking Trump Tower condos the asshole has, right? Compare that to, and this is why I think you and I are both galled by fucking Tucker Carlson's horse shit about Russia. Compare that to what the average Russian is going through, not under Soviet Russia, under Vladimir Putin today, and the social infrastructure of Russia is by and large kind of shit The pensioners are the worst hit in this. They live on even less than everybody else who's working their ass off, and it still doesn't go anywhere. And so the major hubs in Moscow, places like that, professionals, IT specialists, and industry managers get about $1,700 a month in gross pay, like before taxes or any of that. I don't know what the fuck they write off over there. $1,700 a month. And by the way, the cost of goods isn't necessarily like, oh, that's because everything there's a nickel. It's not like that. It's fair parity almost with Europe because they're buying from those same suppliers. So it's not like there's this big trade-off. That's why it's 73,000 rubles or something for shit. The regional towns and rural areas, which is you and I often talk about, the places Tucker never went. They typically make between $476 and $714 a month. A month. And
Yeah.
and like I said, their minimum wage is like amounts to about $250 US. When we talk about people living on, $2 a day or $5 a day, and everybody's brain immediately goes to provincial China, parts of Malaysia or these, Cambodia or the, North Africa or places in the Middle East, whatever, where there's this huge drop off. That's where people's brains immediately go. They don't go to Russia. And I think it's because of this facade that Moscow and St. Petersburg allows them to show the rest of the world, at the Potemkin village, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are other cities that kind of have nicer parts and, parts that aren't so nice. But they get fewer and fewer the more you get away from Moscow and St. Petersburg. And these places are god awful. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
just god awful, and no infrastructure. And the really depressing thing is because of the problem they have with alcoholism in Russia is that they'll buy vodka before they buy food.
Mm-hmm.
Just to numb the pain. So yeah, I mean, Tucker going to a supermarket in Moscow, so tone deaf and insulting. It was just
Mm-hmm.
incredible. But yeah, there's a big old gap between the haves and the have-nots in Russia,
Mm-hmm.
which is gotten worse in my lifetime in the United States, but it's still just there's no comparison. There's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely we have a middle class. It's being pressed. It's difficult. I
Yeah.
know, but
All right.
um,
So
it's not the same.
yeah, I would argue that one of the goals of a functioning government most of the time should be to put as much of a cushion between FA and FO that you can in your people's lives, um, you know, in life, so that people can afford to make mistakes or get sick or live life, so that they're not like, so scared of the risk of life that they don't do anything, exterior of value, and certainly don't add to their life by vacationing or doing shit like that. Like you want that pad, there for just the health and well-being of your countrymen. I believe. And that's what Democrats, I think, by and large, are all about. That's the whole thing. Is like cushion that between FA and FO, and a substructure foundation of rules and regulations and stuff like that you can count on. In Russia, the average salary will get you through 0.90 months. If you have less than a month of fuck around. If something happens every month, this is the average. You're done in a month. In the United States, it's 2 months. It's 60 days. It's like 1.8 or 1.9, which is a significantly, it doesn't sound big, but having 2 months to figure out a problem is better than 28 days. right? And that's a distinction in life experience and expectation that I don't know that people recognize in, because it's bad enough that you may only have 2 months to figure shit out when things go sideways. That the goal of the government, I think, as Democrats, our goal should be to extend that as much as possible. In the same way that, like they say, most people don't have $600 for an emergency, which, by the way, is a lie put out by a company that was trying to sell employment insurance to companies to try and go, we could start these savings account where you put a portion of your employees' money in this on their behalf instead of giving it to them, and we'll hold on to it in case they ever need it, right? Well, we'll be their ahead of time credit card. That's where that stat came from. It's still not great. I think it's somewhere in the order of like 1,500 to 2,000 average. But the point is, it's significantly better than oh shit tomorrow. And there isn't. Do you think the psychology of the average Russian in that circumstance, you get kind of beat down by that expectation where you're just like, if you don't have room to fuck around, you won't. If you can't, if you're going to be put down, you can't stand up. And that there's an element of like, I can't rock the boat because I'm on the edge. And making people feel that way has value for an authoritarian government. You could argue that that's why government, Republicans especially, but people in government try to make Americans feel that way as much as possible so that they're scared into voting for them. If I don't get in there, you won't be able to afford Christmas gifts, right? Or they're going to make you stop saying Merry Christmas altogether, right? And in Russia, you could just be pushed out a window, I suppose. But also like your FAFO window is so fucking small that
Yeah.
it kind of makes you shrug it off, right? And just go
Well,
fuck it. Why bother?
the system is built for that. I mean, that's intentional.
Yeah.
Again, I'll plug a movie it still shocks me that the Russians actually put this out on the world stage for awards and things like that. There was a movie called Leviathan. I think it came out in
Hmm.
2000. I want to say it was 2008. It was a Academy Award nominee for Best Foreign Film. And it's about exactly that. It's about a guy who's just living his life. It's not great, it's not bad, but he's making a go of it. He's divorced. He's got a girlfriend. His son is a troubled teenager, and I mean he's just living his life. And then things start to slip through his fingers, and he quickly just goes from one catastrophic event in his life to another, to another, to another, to another, and pretty soon he's that guy lying in the gutter with a bottle of
Hmm.
vodka. Um, Leviathan,
Hmm.
2008. I think it's well worth a watch. It's not an
Yeah.
easy watch, but it's a really good depiction of how that happens, and especially when you find out at the end of the movie why it is that things took a turn for the worse for him, and that it was actually manipulated
Hmm.
for a very cynical reason. Um, it's a really good insight into how your average Russian can just be absolutely thrown into the meat grinder, and who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
And
That one of.
and you're right.
Mhm.
It isn't. You don't have 2 months. You've got a couple of slips, and you are cascading
Right.
down a
Which
really, really bad slope.
which is one of the ways they always say is that how governments and corporations try to get us all towing the line and have us debt slaves and all that kind of stuff. And it's there is certainly room for conversation. I think it's again, it is a political act to try and extend that as much as possible. You're not living people's lives for them, but you're trying to also create a situation where they don't curtail their behavior and their inventiveness and their value to the rest of the world because they're afraid of one slip up will put them in the fucking gutter. That's the key part of it. That's the part where government can intervene, and that's why a social safety net is so important. The general welfare, providing for the general welfare. There's fruits of that. Watering that soil allows you to grow things you wouldn't otherwise have. The the one I think Tucker brought up that cost of living for the average American is 118% higher than the average Russians. That's what he said. Okay. But the purchasing power of the average American is 141% higher than that of a Russian. That's the difference. That difference it is what creates the life. And that, by the way, that spread should be maximized. That should be the goal. That's what a living wage is all about. That's about maximizing that spread. That's what, union wages were about. Maximize that spread. If we give you 2 weeks of vacation, but you can't afford to fucking go anywhere, what's the point? You sit at home, from whatever, from dusk till you get up and go to work the next morning. There's your vacation, right? You're at home, aren't you? Right? That's not a vacation, right? And so having that expectation in our country is valuable because of because life isn't just what you do. And in Russia, it's just curious to me that there are because I'm sure you've seen. I see all these people who do like these filleting Xi Jinping, filleting China videos. China is living in the future while America is living in the past. Look at this clean train with no one on it, and this terrible New York subway with everybody crowding into it. And you're like, yeah, okay. Do you see the life that's going on in both those circumstances? All those people are getting on this train because they know it will take them someplace they want to go so that they can do something they want to do, so that they can earn money or visit somebody or whatever, so they can do the things they want to do. That's what makes you get on the shitty train and use it every day. If there's this pristine train, but it goes fucking nowhere, that's a real problem. And that's the Russian, like, is it the Kyiv station that in Moscow?
That they took him to, that they
Yeah,
took Tucker to.
the
Yeah.
ballroom. Basically, that's
Yeah.
Trump's ballroom. Is the Kyiv station? That's what he wants. I appreciate you. We're getting near the end of it. Do you have an episode coming up this week on the Edge?
I should do. I should do. The interview is going to be conducted tomorrow. Then I've got another interview scheduled for Friday, and potentially one for Saturday. So that'll give us some. That'll give us some leeway moving forward. To kind of
Right.
like, so we're not always scrambling for a guest.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm very lucky in this show to have you as a regular guest, and the Major's going to be on regular, and Rob and other people like that. And I realized a couple weeks ago that I'm cranking out 6 podcast episodes a week if I turn them into that. So here we go. Welcome to the Hal Sparks podcast, mega worldwide, as part of it. But I do think that, like, there are opportunities where, production wise, you'll be able to, stack some folks, especially as the news cycle there ebbs and flows around normalcy and the extraordinary, that you can probably bank some folks and crank them out, or do special episodes, that kind of thing. Not to give you more work, but um, because being there is work enough, I think, and arguably.
Yeah, I've got.
So
I've got a
yeah,
really good one. I don't want to spoil it, but the interview I have scheduled, and don't count your chickens before they hatch. But
sure.
he'll be a particularly good guest. So we'll keep at it.
Hmm.
We'll they're gonna make winter really really difficult for us.
Mm,
So we've got a donated generator. So we've got a workaround for the studio. Um, so we'll see how it goes, but I am anticipating a pretty rough winter.
right. Well, just stay safe and keep telling us the truth and keep helping us keep as much of an eye on what's going on there as you can. And I'm I'm seeing this through with you, my brother. So
Yep.
love from the other
It's
side of the
exhausting,
pond.
but it
Yep.
is what it is.
And
Has to be
look.
done.
Yep. I look forward to the day that you can put your feet in Lake Michigan again and go, damn, that's cold. Um, So, all right, I'll let you go. Thank you so much. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you later. Okay. All right.
Talk to you on
Later,
Saturday.
Phil.
All right.
Yeah, thank
Yep.
you. Ladies and gentlemen, Philip Ittner, live from Kiev, checking in with us. Couple of things. Before I go, can I do one little piece of news just that I know will upset the maggots? It's really gonna make them grind, I think. Hold on. It's let's see. Let's see. let's see. Yeah, there was a huge leap forward in go there. Thank you. The maggots are going to love this, especially the Maha crowd. mRNA vaccines made famous by the COVID vaccine, and again, this kind of like half-assed attempt by maggots and their acolytes to claim that the heart palpitations and tachycardia and other stuff, myocarditis, I think it was, that came from the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, which was a live virus style vaccine, old school virus vaccine, which, by the way, gives you a dose of the deadened virus so your immune system knows it, but some people's immune systems will react to it, causing inflammation, which led to the myocarditis. And they said that the COVID vaccine caused all this. Okay, well, first of all, there were 4 major ones. Not, we didn't really count the AstraZeneca ones. So 3 that we dealt with, Pfizer and Moderna mainly, were the mRNA ones. And then Johnson & Johnson was the non-mRNA version, right? And a lot of the impacts of the Johnson & Johnson were laid over on the mRNA ones. People would say they got sick for days afterwards and blah blah blah. And some people reacted to the Moderna and Pfizer ones as well in some ways, because it's your body's going to react to something you inject into it in that regard. But they weren't as consistent, say, as the Johnson & Johnson ones. But mRNA became the bad guy, became the boogeyman. That's right. There we go. CPA Matt CJD. Yeah, you're on to me. Let me try this. There we go. This guy right here. Why am I floating? Let's just move this over here and move this over. Hello. My camera keeps moving around. I'm going to work on it. I'm cutting myself off too. Why did that happen? Stop it, you silly thing. Oh, maybe I'm just scooped in. I am. That's weird. Okay. So, Moderna and Merck say melanoma vaccine succeeded in large trial. A personalized mRNA cancer vaccine. And again, this is the key. A personalized mRNA cancer vaccine, which tests the cancer that you have and then gives you a vaccine for just that cancer, specific to the cells of that cancer. The future of medicine in many ways is this specific. Combined with the immunotherapy Keytruda, succeeded in late-stage trial for the deadly skin cancer melanoma. Now, I have a friend, Judy Toll, who died from skin cancer, and had this been around, she might still be with us if it works out the way it looks like it will. So we're going to raid Cliff in a moment, but I want to leave you with this. Its maker said Wednesday, potentially opening up a new way of treating the disease. And this will apply to a lot, if not all, cancers eventually. That's where this is headed. And thank God. The study is ongoing, but interim results found the treatment intismeran met both its primary target of reducing cancer recurrence and its secondary goal of keeping cancers from spreading to other parts of the body. The treatment is being developed by Moderna and Merck, which also makes Keytruda. The results are a big day for humanity as of November 16, 2020, when Moderna released the late-stage clinical trial showing its COVID-19 vaccine work. This is a new chapter in cancer care. This is where things are headed, that instead of hunting and pecking and beating the shit out of you, trying to just kill cancer cell in its generic form, that they can test, find the one you have, treat it, done. So that they're not killing other cells. Imagine a pesticide you were able to create that, where they're like, we're spraying this shit on plants, and it kills the nervous system of mosquitoes and gnats and nits and ladybugs. We hope it doesn't spread, but it might be a little. I wouldn't let your pets near it, right? That kind of shit. Versus this only kills that and nothing else. This is the way cancer treatment should go, has to go. Genetic treatment of cancer cells, because they are flourishing, replicating cells with a single genetic structure. That's why they can check when my girlfriend's tumor is in storage for years. After if anybody who's had cancer or had known somebody who has, they take their tumor and they take the cells from it and they store it because genetically that cancer, if it recurs, will be of the same strain, right? It'll be the same fucking cancer. Doesn't mean other cancers, I suppose, couldn't come up, but in particular, that's what they. I'm kidding about ladybugs. Simmer down. That's what I'm saying. It kills everything. You don't want it to kill it. You just want this particular strain of wheat blight killed. Okay. And yeah, uh, cue the rednecks. They gonna change our DNA. We ain't gonna be human no more. And that that Peter Thiel and that crowd will call this part of the transhumanist movement, part of the singularity, where the technology that we have is intertwined with our expectation of life because we will use this modern, very high level scientific technology for humans to extend our lives, right? That's transhumanism. And Donald Trump will call that transgender for everybody. So basically, I don't know how we sell this to maggots. Maybe it kills it. Maybe that's how we get it. Cancer is a trans gene, and we've got to kill the trans gene in your cells before it transitions you. I don't know. Either way, this is great news, and it is moving. It's moving in the right direction. mRNA specific to the virus or what have you that is infecting people is a way better targeted way of fighting. A way better targeted way. Is a very targeted way of stopping specific illnesses, especially cancer, which is not like a contagion that might have other rolling, evolving ramifications. Specific to you or your loved one or your pet, for that matter. And once that, inject the venom is kind of the old-fashioned way of vaccines. Is you do a nullified version of the venom and then it works as an anti-venom, right? So fighting cancer that is specific to the patient in the least intrusive way is where this is headed. And yes, yay for science. Exactly. No chemo, just a pill. It's happening. Well, this won't be a pill. It'll be an injection more than likely. And then they'll stabilize your immune system during it. I guess that's maybe what the Keytruda is. I'll look into it. But the primary aspect of this is that they've been, the HPV vaccine really stopping, or lowering the incidence of cervical cancer, for example, by stopping its growth. This has been something they've been tipping toward for a long time. There was but all that said, just some good news. Just wanted to let you guys know that and I don't want to upset anyone, but AI played a part in how they were able to use the protein folding and kind of make this stuff happen. So again, it's not the tool, it's who's using it. You could get rid of ICE and you still have INS. And if somebody like Donald Trump is in charge, it's going to be a weapon. Voting matters. The direction matters. A car can be a battering ram or it can take someone to the hospital. It's not the tool, it's the user. And we need to start paying more attention to who we allow to use these things, right? Who we put in charge. And also celebrate the people who are using it well. Does that make sense? Is that okay? Is that all right? So that's just a little morsel of goodness. And now I'm going to open the door to my studio and go in the other room because it's hot in here because our air conditioning wasn't working and the house hasn't cooled off yet and I'm schwitzing. Hit the like, share the show. I'll see you this afternoon for the House Sparks Mega Worldwide. And I'll try and not get wound up before the show like I did on Monday, because then I don't. It takes me a while to get to the clips and the segments because but expect it. You're gonna have to cut me some slack because lately I'm like the conversations about important things are getting so dumb that I'm like, I watch. This is how I ended up on Steph's show. Okay, I know, Midwestern goodbye. This is how I ended up on Steph's show. You guys know this, right? I called into Steph's show to promote a stand-up gig that I had in LA because there's no radio in LA for promoting performance. Never has been. It's very weird. And she forgot about me. The first time I was on hold to talk to Steph and do a little promo, and she liked the fact that I was on Queer as Folk, and that's why they were more than inclined to have me on, and that was nice. But I was on hold for like 45 minutes. They forgot about me. And while I was on hold, it was during when the ACA came out. Some people remember this. And the ACA came out, and everybody was saying, nobody's read the ACA. Nobody's read it. Republicans were saying it everywhere. It's so big, and and Pelosi said we'll have to wait to read it after it's been voted in, which meant they were constantly changing it at the time. That was the joke. But the point is, I got annoyed, and I was like, I'm gonna read it. So like a week and a half before I was on her show, I read the ACA cover to cover, whole thing, all 3,000 pages of it, which is, double spaced and a lot of repeating sections, but I made it through. Read the whole thing, made notes, all this other stuff. And I got on the air, and the people that were calling in, people who were against it and thought it was fucking socialism and communism, whatever, and the people who were calling in saying it's just a way to stop Medicare for all, and it's a right-wing blah, blah, blah. They were all full of shit. Both of them, both sides of that argument, speaking from the heart, raging about the ACA in one direction or another. And I'd read the goddamn thing. I knew what was in it. And so I was sitting there. Oh, my girl's calling. I was sitting there. I got to go. I was sitting there, and I'll tell you the rest of the show story later. Have a nice day. Anyways, I never promoted my show. I only talked about the ACA.
Yeah, yeah. If they ask, I forgot it. You ain't seen nothing. Yeah, yeah. We ain't saying nothing. Black bar from my past, can't track this. Screenshots cropped out, can't catch this. If it looks too wild on the axis, highlight, right click, boom, redact this. Redact this. Blood and face, can't fact check the madness. Throwing out page from the bad habits atlas. If the story get messy in the young, I was dumb, I was scrolling. Type way too much, hit send, heart swollen. Now I keep receipts like a lawyer with a folder. But anything risky, get hit with the toner. Whole group chat, got tails, I ain't claim. If my name pop up, that's a typo, blame. Who's that in the pic, man, that ain't go strange. That's a random stranger with a very close face. Understanding my friends, I plead don't recall. If they ask for the tape, it's a missing file. If they pull up the clip, that's deep fake style. If they show me the proof, I just smile like redact this. Black ball from my past, can't track this. Screenshots cropped out, can't catch this. If it looks too wild on the axis, highlight, right click, boom, redact this. Redact this. Blur that face, can't fact check the madness. Torn out page from the bad habits atlas. If the story get messy in the ad-libs, highlight, right click, boom, yeah. Redact. If it hit too close, that's a rumor I heard. If the dateline match, that's a clerical error. If the outfit match, that's a popular shirt. If the tattoo match, that's a stock photo search. I'm allergic to question carving the light.